Welcome to Might in Motion, where we help you navigate your personal and professional goals to manifest them into your deserved career and life path. Here at Might in Motion, we don't make excuses, we do the work and go above and beyond. The Might in Motion podcast brings you guests that will help stretch you out of your comfort zone and push you to improve your goals. Like, comment, and share. This is Might in Motion.
Tonight, I am bringing to you a dear friend of mine, Lynn Wong. She is a transformation mentor and coach who bridges people to possibilities. I've actually always likened her to be the master connector of people. She has a private practice as a transformation mentor, a sabbatical coach, and co-founder of a business committed to growing happy, healthy communities. Prior to the season of her work-life harmony, Lynn was a global logistics executive who has lived and worked in Singapore, China, and in the USA for over 20 years. She's an alumna of industry leaders in retail and shipping, Wal-Mart, Home Depot, Maersk, etc., where she has led inspired teams across continents to deliver significant results for customers worldwide. She is truly a global citizen, starting her life and career in Singapore and working in visiting over 40 countries and counting. Home is where her heart and her husband are, which is in Fayetteville, Arkansas, with her two cats, Karma and Smalls. She's the creator of Slow Down to Speed Up, a signature coaching program that guides global leaders to gain energy to beat burnout, do the work they love, and live the lives they want. She's a certified coach with the Gallup organization in Clifton Strengths and Building Profile, as well as an integrative nutrition health coach with the Institute of Integrated Nutrition. She also serves as a career coach for the EMBA students at the University of Arkansas. Lynn, my dear, dear friend, welcome to Might in Motion.
Thank you for having me, and happy Day of Love.
Oh, I know, right? I don't know when we'll actually post this on the podcast, but we are recording it on Valentine's Day. And we are Galentines. We've been friends, coworkers, and prior lives of yours because you've had many iterations. And, you know, I think that's what makes this such a special conversation because of our history and how we kind of grew up together in a weird sort of way in the corporate world.
Yeah, absolutely. And growing up and still sort of being in the journey and recognizing that, 15 plus years in, I don't know that we're ever going to outgrow each other, no matter
No.
the adventures we take. And thank you for having me. What a privilege to also support you in your journey.
And we had a bet coming into this, would we wear the exact same color? Because we had gotten to a point where we would show up at meetings and we'd be in the same shade of lavender, or we went complete opposites. So today, so if you're watching us on YouTube or if you're watching us live on LinkedIn or Facebook, you can see that we've got two different colors on. If you are joining us live, you can ask questions in the chat and it'll pop up on my stream. And we'd love to take any questions that you might have. So Lynn, you have been on a remarkable journey. And this journey goes back 20 years, multiple decades, right? Can you give our audience a little bit of a brief history? I don't know how you can do it, but how you've kind of pivoted in your career and now how that's led you to where you are right now in your life?
Sure. Fortunately, it's only the first 2 decades, and looking at lifespan and statistics, I think we've got a couple more sets. Health willing, right?
Yes.
I kind of fell into my first job kind of almost out of responsibility. I was graduating from the National University of Singapore. I went to one of those career fairs and filled out a form, for a shipping company, and they called. I showed up to interviews, brought my resumes, and what I didn't know then, I definitely knew when they made me an offer, that I began my career with the world's largest shipping line, the AP Maersk group of companies, headquartered in Denmark, and I joined their Singapore office. That adventure introduced me to the world of global business through shipping and transportation. And they gave me an opportunity to take an overseas assignment in Atlanta, Georgia. And that was over 20 years ago, which, through a couple of happy twists and turns, I got an invitation to move from Maersk to join the Home Depot, the world's largest home improvement retailer. And that's where I met you, life changing, no less, career and in my life. And after just under 6 years at the Home Depot, I got another phone call, this time from Walmart, the largest private employer in the world. And it was a very special conversation. I barely shopped at Walmart, but after the call, I knew I had to get myself invited to Arkansas to visit with them. And that then gave me an amazing decade at Walmart that included almost 5 years living and working in the US in Bentonville, Arkansas, and then the next five in China. And through COVID 2020, a lot of reflection, I guess, accelerated. And, you know, um, I would love to say that it was, one day another phone call came and it was time to become a transformation mentor and coach, but actually didn't happen this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my health actually started to take a hit, from maybe the long hours, maybe COVID, maybe a lot of things, but it
Mm-hmm.
took a pretty big hit that then created the space for me to do some deep, deep soul searching while physically recovering. And I am super happy also, to be recording this with you on Valentine's Day, a day of love, to report that I am the happiest and healthiest that I've ever been, I guess, in my whole life.
Yeah.
And if not for everything to date, I wouldn't be here. So,
Mm-hmm. I mean, everything that builds up is what creates where we are, right? So I don't think any of us would look back and say, "Well, I wish that hadn't happened," because if things hadn't happened, you can't be who you are today or where you are today without your history. And I look back at our friendship and our time working together, and I think what was really, really cool. We were talking about this a little bit in the green room before we went live, but around how we had this realization that as leaders, and specifically female leaders in an industry that doesn't really have a ton, right? At least at that
mhm,
time, was we had
mhm,
an obligation not only to lift ourselves up, but to lift each other up and in turn try to create a path for people coming up behind us. And
mhm,
that's something I've always admired with you is how you leverage relationships to do that.
yeah. Relationships really mattered, and the the idea that relationships matter in service is something that I actually it was foundational for me at Home Depot.
Yeah.
When I first made the transition, I could barely catch my breath from transitioning from global shipping to working for an American retail, in a space DIY that I was not personally familiar with growing up in Singapore, where it's DIFM, right, or do it for me.
Yeah.
Um, that was why your friendship was so
Mhm.
significant to me. That not only did you, I don't remember the details now, but I definitely remember the feeling. And as I guess, that quote by Maya Angelou, people don't remember the details, but they remember how you make them feel. And
Yes.
I definitely remember almost heading into trouble in a business meeting, and you had pulled me aside and just laid out the context for me in a very kind, very easy to understand way that made me go, "Oh my goodness, thank you for having my back."
Yeah.
Um, and I was still trying to tell left from right, up from down, when then one day, I don't even remember how, you shared that somehow inside 24 hours a day, you found the time to serve others, serve other women, in that grassroots women's group that you
Yeah.
co-led with several others. And um, that journey then opened up, that preceded a lot of the formation of the associate resource groups that then
Right.
gave me really an education, and relationships do matter. um, and you nurture them one at a time.
That's right. And they're all unique. So you can't just take what works for between Mariana and Lynn may not
Mhm.
work between Lynn and somebody else or myself and someone else. It's unique, right? And when you create that, it really doesn't matter how much time has passed, right? So we'll go 6
Mhm.
months without talking to each other, and it'll be
Mhm.
across continents. And I know that I could. When you're in, you're in Shenzhen. Remember, I forget
Mhm.
where we actually met that
Mhm.
one time, but I happened to be traveling there for work, and I knew I could pick up the phone
Mhm.
and say, "Hey, I'm headed your way," and I'd
Yeah.
love to find time to catch up. And that turns into, a dinner where we might talk strategy a little bit, but then also like you're exposing me to things that I've never experienced before culturally, right? Which
Mhm.
is so important too, because when you are moving not only with relationships, but you're moving into leadership roles, how do you expand your mind, right? To be open to other
Mhm.
cultures and other beliefs and that thought process. And you were pivotal for me on making that change. I can't seem to talk today, but you
Yeah.
helped me make that change on exposing me to things that I had never necessarily been exposed to, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. I remember that trip. And, to get back to that point around lifting others, as we rise, like you had a teammate, you had actually somebody that reported into you on that trip as well,
Yeah.
right? And you made time to make sure that we would expose him. I think it was
Mhm.
might have been his first overseas trip.
It was. I
Or
think it might have been his first flight. Like, it was one of those, there was a lot of firsts.
yes. And so you were there focused on making, you were probably barely through jet lag, but focused on making sure, he had an opportunity to just experience and ask questions. And, you poured into him, just like you poured into all the associates,
Mhm.
that worked around you at Depot, regardless of their gender identity. If you saw a
Mhm.
spark where they were taking care of themselves, taking care of their customers, and taking care of their teammates, you doubled down,
Mhm.
and invested in them. And you were definitely one of my role models as to no ifs, ands, or buts. You can do this. You can deliver for the business. You can be a good friend, and you can take care of your
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
which is like essential and timeless.
So how did you pivot the things that you learned along the way into your own unique leadership style? Because I mean, you've worked for some huge organizations, right? Global organizations. And
Mhm.
you and your husband have started companies and done really cool things locally from a grassroots effort. How do you leverage those skills to apply leadership in that entrepreneurial space as well?
Yeah, really just recognizing our shared humanity.
Hmm.
Having grown up as a and still identifying as a proud Singaporean, and my husband's American, so I'm half American, um,
Yep.
and then having been, just a grateful guest, and resident, living and working in the U.S. and then living and working in China. You know, COVID brought home for me how much more common ground humans have
Hmm.
than we spend time on. And, you know, there was a global pandemic going around, there was scarcity of resources, but at the speed at which, my friends in China were pivoting from first asking me to, hey, can you buy something from Amazon, buy the mask from Amazon and ship it to me in China? I'll pay you anything, to then being first and going, oh my God, Lynn, we're seeing the news. The US has no mask. We're sending you mask, you know, just and up against all the really stressful headlines, if you will, right?
Right.
Climate, economy, politics. It was just really important for us, for my husband and I, to firmly remember that we have shared humanity, we have witnessed its best, and we need to do what we can
Hmm.
to contribute to
Hmm.
creating space for new relationships, new memories, and new possibilities.
So you mentioned at the beginning that through that whole process over the past few years, there's that health aspect
Mhm,
that impacted you,
mhm,
right? And you've been able to make it, that very, what can be a terrifying pivot for folks, but you've made a pivot so that you can focus on your health, focus on being in the moment, How has that shaped your vision for your slow down to speed up initiative?
Yeah. So part in reflection, part of that transformation that I've, you know, personally gone through, health motivated,
Mm-hmm.
was actually recognizing that, you know, the lessons that I've learned, you know, there's a lot. But the theme of the lessons I learned at Depot was very much around relationships matter. And the theme at Walmart was really building upon relationships matter, expanding to leadership matters. And it's
Yeah.
come full circle for me personally around health matters. So when I say health matters, it really is, but the health of the planet, the health of,
Mm-hmm.
people, our physical health, and the health of economies. And they
Mm-hmm.
really do matter, and they're more integrated than I have ever realized. And I had a call to make that I needed to stop copying other people's life, comparing myself to other people's life, and I need to choose to meet the woman in the mirror and do the work that makes her come alive,
Yeah.
and so she can help others come alive too and meet whatever um, comes them helps them come alive. And slow down to speed up literally sums up my philosophy. It is also the name of my signature coaching program. But if
Mm-hmm.
there's one thing you remember from tuning into this broadcast, it's just slow down to speed up and meet your full potential, whatever that looks like. It's yours.
Yeah. It's so, I don't know. I think it's so interesting to me that we both have had this pivot in the past, let's call it 12 months, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and have created initiatives that are doing very similar things because there's a need.
Mm-hmm.
There's a need for that ability to slow down to
Mm-hmm.
speed up, right? There's the need for people to be able to create that might in motion, right? Which is similar things, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
about what motivates you. How do you drive momentum to get what you want? What's your mental
Mm-hmm.
state? What's your physical state from
Mm-hmm.
a might perspective? It's all very, very similar because there's such a need, and there's a need for you and I to open our mouths and talk about it. Because we would talk
Mm-hmm.
about it behind closed doors. We'll talk about it, we'll gab about it over the phone or via text message. And it was like we both got
Mm-hmm.
hit with the spark that said, now's the time to speak in a broader setting because other people they need to hear your message, Lynn. They do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's that ability to kind of resonate with a broader group than just those circles that we've interacted with in the past, which I think is super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, 100%. And, working and serving on, these significant teams in corporate that you and I get to be a part of, speaking up, you know, can be a little complex,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time, I think you also meet the moment in your own life where you recognize that speaking up is essential and that
Yeah.
that you can be additive to the conversation. And honestly, we can have open dialogue where, I don't have to be wrong for you to be right, and
Right.
that we can hold space for multiple truths, right?
Yeah.
And
That's so, so true.
it's time.
Well, I love we've got some comments and I'm just gonna kind of show one here and you might be able to see it when when you're logging in. But Vicky calls out I can't call her Victoria because she is another friend, but Vicky, in order to take care of the person, you have to slow down, right? And we've all been hit with that. We've all
Hmm.
had, potential health issues, relationship issues,
Hmm.
and sometimes work and career issues. And
Hmm.
you really do have to take those moments to say, how do I recharge? How do I reset? How do I
Hmm.
get back to, another one of kind of your kind of key words is how do you stay healthy and present?
Hmm.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Um, Being healthy means being whole.
Mm,
So it used to be not sick. healthy means not sick.
Yeah.
Healthy means no allergies, means no prescriptions. It always begins with a no. But in the, as you know, I invested in a personal sabbatical the back
Yeah.
half of 2022 and really got pulled into this idea of, oh, health is whole. And then being present is kind of funny because we literally, scientifically, practically cannot be anywhere but present.
Correct.
We can't. Our mind lives in the past, but we can't literally live in the past, and we literally can't live in the future. Our mind can go there and create all sorts of trouble, but we can only be present.
Mm-hmm. Which makes it a gift. It is the biggest gift.
Yeah, but I will say that this feeling, this inner knowing of, like, some people call it the gut instinct, some people call it intuition of I am exactly where I'm supposed to be with the people I'm supposed to be doing the work I'm meant to do. And that is an unbelievable feeling.
Yeah. I mean, Amy mentions that she loves that you recognize your sabbatical was an investment, right? It's an investment in yourself, which in turn allows you cannot fill somebody else's cup if your cup is not overflowing. Right. And taking that pause allowed you to really be able to do that. So you can now pour into others the way that your destiny is intending you to go towards. Yeah.
I will say that it was unbelievably difficult, and I debated on whether I should say it, and there's no better place for me to say it than, with your support, that when I decided on the sabbatical, I was overcome with an incredible amount of self-doubt, too much shame, and I didn't understand why, but I definitely felt it. And looking back, gosh, I can't believe I was almost selfish enough to keep going, because had I let my health deteriorate any further, I got a health scare, so I'm healthy now, but it was enough scare to get my attention. And frankly, that was the only way I was going to listen. But I am glad I listened.
Yeah.
And, I just had to realize that what I was doing after I did have an opportunity several years ago to take a sabbatical, and I didn't. Why? Because you don't do things like that. That's not responsible. You do that when you're 50 or 60 or north of 70, like you're supposed to be wanting the next thing, and sometimes it can get in your head, but that was too much. And I wanted what I saw other people having. And it took forever. It took a health scare for me to realize that I'm really happy for these people, but that is not my life. And I need to get in the business of what makes me come alive. That is my ultimate responsibility. The most important relationship that I will ever have is the one with myself. And only then can I be of service to others around me.
Right. Yeah.
So
and that's with all relationships, right? So
absolutely.
Like I had to learn that same thing, just like with my personal relationships, with my husband, with my kids, right? Until you fix, or not fix, because until you resolve whatever is going on in here, and you once again, you can't give to anybody else. You can't be present with anybody else because you're never in that moment anymore, right? So you've learned a lot over your, time in corporate America, and now diving into the Slow Down to Speed Up initiative. If you could go back and talk to Lynn 10 years ago, what advice would you have given her?
Take your breaks. If not, the break will come take you.
Thank you.
That's what happened.
And would she have listened?
At least it would have got started, it would have seeded, right?
Yes, and that's all we need
It would have
sometimes,
seeded.
right? Like, it's just that little nugget,
Yeah.
and then it grows. It grows and grows and grows. Um, so
Yeah.
I wanna share, the QR code for,
Mm.
if you're watching on the video, if you're watching later on YouTube, you can scan the QR code as well, but tell us a little bit more about your program and people who might be interested in what you are doing.
Yeah. Um, Slow Down to Speed Up is a program dedicated first to the high achieving global corporate women to help them gain energy to beat burnout so they can do the work they love with sustained excellence and unlock human potential. So, if the words burnout or breakthrough are sort of in your vocabulary, in your periphery, and you are curious, just scan the QR code when you're ready, book a call with me, and let's discuss. Um, you know, if Slow Down to Speed Up gets your curiosity going, it really is um, that first step towards prioritizing your self care so that you actually can be productive for yourself and everyone around you that you care about.
Right, and
So,
and you obviously are an expert in this, right? You have lived that international jet-setting, corporate executive, and so you have the ability to really relate, in a very real way, right, with women who might be
mhm,
struggling with similar things, right? And
mhm,
that's huge because sometimes people I think feel alone. In reality, there are a lot of people out there that
mhm.
you can connect with and learn from and grow with.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad to see that, you've also created space in your life in addition to being, a business executive, a mom, a wife, an athlete, to also make space to coach others, right? To help them build their legacies. So if you're scanning the QR code from here, tell me you heard me on Might in Motion. Um,
That'd be
and I'll
great.
work a little harder.
You know,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Lynn, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was a really special conversation for me personally, and I love you dearly. I love your message. I know that you have so much to share and give to other women who are looking for that similar type of guidance. So please, please scan the QR code, reach out to Lynn. She's amazing. So thank you so, so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like, comment, and share. Thank you.